Kingston in 1867, September 26, held a meeting for 27 different lacrosse organizations that came from Toronto to Montreal and met in Kingston, and they formed the first amateur sport governing body in North America and perhaps the world. We're not sure about the world part, but we are sure about North America. And this body, which is now Lacrosse Canada, led to other sports using it as a model as they formalize their own games, such as basketball and hockey.
Well, look, I'm here to really support what's happening today in Kingston. I understand that in 1867, Lacrosse Canada was initially founded here, but of course lacrosse has been in North America for millennia. And it's a sport that in a couple of years will be an official sport in the Olympics with the national Haudenosaunee team that will be representing North America. And it's very exciting to see. Lacrosse is Canada's national sport. And of course, next Monday is National Day for Truth and Reconciliation. So the work that I'm part of is about ensuring that Canada's true history is reflected, and Indigenous history is central to that. And we're here to celebrate a sport that has in many ways captivated Indigenous people for hundreds of years. But today it is not just a national sport, it's an international sport. So it's also about celebrating how far we've come, but also what's ahead for the sport.
The meeting that was held in 1867 here in Kingston to establish what is today Lacrosse Canada is a very important historical event for both the city of Kingston and for lacrosse in Canada. It was the first sports governing body, as we said earlier, and it set the tone for developing and codifying the rules of the game and the development of what is now the modern game in lacrosse.
This whole project really started about 7 years ago when two historians from Kingston, they were really hockey historians, but they loved the game of lacrosse as well. Bill Fitzel and Ed Grenda reached out to Canadian Lacrosse Foundation and said that there should be a permanent monument here that would commemorate the beginning of Lacrosse Canada. I want to welcome you all to an historic event for our national summer game, the Creators Game, lacrosse. I'd like to invite Queen's Band piper Alexander McDonald, who will lead in our official continuance. Today marks a great anniversary for lacrosse, the modern sport. It was September 26, 1867, when representatives from 27 lacrosse clubs between Montreal and Toronto assembled to give corporeal life to Lacrosse Canada. I would like to take a moment to introduce our dignitaries to you who will help us with the celebration. First, representing Canada, the Minister of Crown Indigenous Relations, Gary Anandasangri. Next, we have Paul Shaves, District 2, Loyalist Canarage, Councillor Paul Shaves. From Lacrosse Canada, we have Bill Hutton. From the Canadian Lacrosse Association, we have Jim Burke. From the Canadian Lacrosse Hall of Fame, we have Matthew Black. And from Akwesasne, former Grand Chief Mike Mitchell Ganun Tagelun. From Akwesasne, his brother, a tremendous goaltender. And we have Ernie Mitchell, Gahelau Noglun. And then we have another great player, Travis Cook, who used to strike fear in the hearts of men with one of the hardest shots of his era. Travis' name is Lutni Gulit-Lillo. And Ganawagi lacrosse player Louis DeLille, Dewani Dutsu. At this time, I would like to invite Councillor Shaves up to the podium for some special words on the land acknowledgement and the official proclamation.
I'll begin with my remarks. I want to recognize the city is situated in the traditional homeland of the Anishinaabe, Haudenosaunee, and Huron-Wendat, and I'd like to thank these nations for their care and stewardship over the shared land. Today and every day we are grateful for the privilege to use this land and uphold our commitment to meaningful reconciliation with the Indigenous people. I'm happy to be here today and offer some remarks as we celebrate Lacrosse Day in Kingston. And Kingston has a long connection with lacrosse. It dates back as far back as 1867, with 52 delegations representing 27 lacrosse clubs from Ontario and Quebec, convened in council chambers to form the National Association of Lacrosse. This was the first national sport governing body in North America, dedicated to the governance of a sport, standardizing the rules in competition, as well as the running of national championships. I learned that lacrosse is known by Indigenous people as the creator's game, a game that played an important role in the Great Law of Peace that established the Hinduist Confederacy. And so, as we celebrate Crosse Day in Kingston, it is important to bear in mind the historical and cultural significance of this sport. Finally, to the athletes and coaches present, I want to say a few words to you. When you're on the field, whether it be a practice or a game, always remember the values of this sport teaches you. Values like respect, perseverance, and teamwork are at the heart of this sport, but always the keys for a better society. And so, I want to thank you all once again for the invitation to be here today for the annual Lacrosse Day celebration in Kingston, and hope you have a fun and exhibition match. Thank you. Whereas Kingston has a strong connection to the start of both Canada's national sports, lacrosse and hockey, and whereas the exciting news of that lacrosse will be played at the 2028 Olympic Games in Los Angeles shows that this sport is continuing to grow, and whereas a permanent monument is being constructed to honor Kingston's contributions to both sports at the Vista Center, with the completion of the second granite bench honoring lacrosse in Kingston. And whereas this monument also honors the gift of the creator's game, the medicine game, which is shared by the Indigenous peoples of Canada. And whereas the last weekend in September will see many games played around the city in honor of Lacrosse Day. And whereas September 26th is the anniversary of the creation of Lacrosse Canada in 1867, formed by a union of 27 lacrosse clubs from Toronto to Montreal. Therefore, on behalf of Mayor Brian Patterson, on behalf of Kingston City Council, I hereby proclaim September 26, 2024 to be Lacrosse Day in the city of Kingston.
I would now like to invite up Minister Anak Dasangri to say a few words of welcome from our federal government.
Good morning, everyone. I'm delighted to be here. I want to acknowledge all the young people that are here today. How are you guys doing? All right, welcome here this morning. I want to just start by acknowledging that we're gathered here on the traditional lands of the Haudenosaunee and the Anishinaabe peoples, and I'm delighted to be here to celebrate Canada's national sport, lacrosse. This is a sport that's existed since creation, one that Indigenous people across this land have played and have persevered over generations, and it's been an incredible journey here in Kingston as it was formalized in 157 years ago today with the beginning of the formal association of lacrosse. However, it by no means means the beginning of this game, because this has been around here
for millennia. As we look to celebrate lacrosse over the next few years, particularly as we lead to 2028, the Olympics in Los Angeles, it is important to note that Canada will have a national team. The United States will have a national team, but so will the Haudenosaunee will have a national team. And it's very significant because it is very much a cross-border initiative that will ensure that the nation is represented with its own flag at the international stage. And I'm delighted that I know Travis Cook is here. He is born on this side of the border, but lives on the other side of the border along with his family. And I was delighted to talk to him because I think he represents what the true nation was before a confederation and before boundaries, international boundaries came into place. So I want to acknowledge him. I want to acknowledge, of course, Mike Mitchell and Ernie Mitchell, who are here and were already acknowledged. And earlier this morning, Elder Louis Delisle, I had a chance to speak to him, and he was explaining the game to young people from the local middle school here. So I want to thank all the players here who represent the incredible sport, but also are Indigenous. And I want to pay particular homage to them today because on Monday is National Day for Truth and Reconciliation. And I recall that Elder Lewis was talking about his experience in day schools in his community. And it is a day that each and every one of us, and I know all of you guys here, young people, I know you're learning this in your schools, but it is important that you continue to learn and continue to understand Canada's painful history and the impacts of residential schools, intergenerational trauma, and the disparity that continues to exist between Canada's Indigenous people and other Canadians. And I think it's important that we acknowledge this day and do our part towards this path towards reconciliation. And I have high hopes for you guys. I have incredible hopes for young people because as I go to schools across Canada, I know that you're learning more than I ever learned in my elementary school or many of us learned in our schools. So I want to just say that your learning journey should continue and you should definitely do your part towards reconciliation. Thank you for the opportunity to be here today, and I look forward to enjoying the sport as a spectator, I might add, in the upcoming years leading up to the Olympics. Thank you.
Thank you, Minister. And this time I need to thank a few people for their work on this. And there's one person who Kingston should be building a statue of eventually, and that is Ed Grenda, who's here with us today. Ed is one of the top sport historians in Canada and was very much involved with creating an international hockey journalists organization. And he's the man that reached out to the Canadian Lacrosse Foundation maybe 6 or 7 years ago to say that something should be done to recognize the beginning of the game here. Ed, we're glad to have you here today, and we really thank you for all that you've done for sport in Canada and for lacrosse. He's actually a West Coast guy and played out for the Salmon Bellies. Not quite the Salmon Bellies, but played out his lacrosse out west. So Ed, thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Okay, all right. Thank you. Now it's my great pleasure, and this is kind of like a Field of Dreams moment. Okay, is this person here now, or is it a spirit who's come to visit us? But it's introduce originally from Montreal, the father of the modern game, Dr. George Beers.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Jim. Thank you very much. Good morning, everyone, and welcome. I'm so very happy to be here to celebrate our first national convention. My name is Dr. William George Beers, and I am the man whom you now credit with creating the modern game of lacrosse. But my aim was not to create a game, for it already existed, but it was to standardize its rules, to grow the game, a game which lives and belongs here where I live, where we live. And in that year of 1867, we increased the number of lacrosse clubs from 6 to 80 and held the first national convention, the one we are celebrating today. Over 150 years ago, I watched the original game being played by players who ran and leapt with joy and vigor in desperate attempts to get the ball. And to my eye, these scenes could have been the subject of any painter or sculptor equal to any scenes which ever inspired the hand of an artist in the Olympic Games or in the Roman Forum. It is a wonderful game, and the modern game has come a long, long way since the Montreal Lacrosse Club's early visits to Ganawage and Akwesasne, where we had, as we say in the modern vernacular, where we had our butts kicked. Now, it is played by amateurs and professionals from coast to coast to coast. So, I would like to take this opportunity to say thank you to the people of Ganawage, of Akwesasne, and Kanasatake for teaching me the game, and most especially to my brother, Big John Canadian, who so often spirited me across the St. Lawrence River by canoe to observe, to learn, and to play this wonderful game. Thank you all. And to celebrate this special event, the beginnings of our modern game, I have a gift. A song. Yes, a song. I have been in my time an author, dentist, publisher, president of the Dental Board of Examiners, dean of Provincial Dental College, and captain of No. 6 Company of the Victoria Rifles. But I have never been a singer. I will attempt to add this to my CV now. From 1872, lacrosse, our national game. Though baseball and cricket, the bat and the wicket have charms, there is no game can claim, boys, to yield in such measure of profit and pleasure as lacrosse, our own national game, boys. Oh, what a wonderful game, boys. 'Tis a life-giving, joy-giving game, boys. Let us unite in singing tonight success to our national game, boys. Now dodging and checking, defending, attacking, with running and sometimes a roll. Girls, with catching and throwing, the sport is kept going till the ball is sent home through the goal. Girls, oh, 'tis a wonderful game, girls, a life-giving, joy-giving game, girls. Let us unite in singing tonight success to our national game all. Thank you.
It's now my honor to invite former Grand Chief Mike Mitchell from Akwesasne to come forward to speak about the game, representing 4 Mohawk players who are here and the one who unfortunately couldn't be with us today from Ganasatake. Mike?
Sebo, Pagatsanoni, Pasquahungaru, Mundo, Pongwagedo, Agwego Watsquanawarat. Ladies and gentlemen, brothers and sisters, we also represent the Haudenosaunee national team. And on their behalf, I want to sing you this short song. That was a long time ago considered the warrior dance song. And since that time, after 1812, we've modified it and is now known as the Haudenosaunee Smoke Dance, which our young dancers dance for competition amongst themselves. We also use it for lacrosse games to create goodwill. And so we sing this song in honor of your anniversary. I want to tell you that the first organization that was formed in lacrosse, the first resolution, action that they took was to bar the Mohawks from playing with them for championship games. So we didn't get off to a good start. But I do want to tell you that this year, going in the next few years, with the Olympic Games coming up in Los Angeles, we will be walking in friendship with Canada and the United States as they welcome the Haudenosaunee Nationals into the Olympic Games. We will be playing the game of lacrosse as the inventor of the game of lacrosse. And we take the game very spiritually, culturally, representing all Indigenous people of the world. And on their behalf, we want to thank you all for creating this little spot to recognize the game of lacrosse going forward into the future. Lacrosse is a very exciting game. And so in partnership, the Haudenosaunee join with you, spreading goodwill, good feeling, good history. And in the future, you will be watching our players play with yours and creating that goodwill. So, Yawa, we will see you in Los Angeles. Yawa, one.
Now I'd like to invite Chairman of the Canadian Lacrosse Foundation, really the entity that had taken up this project and delivered this project, Mr. Jim Burke from Alberta.
Honorable Minister, Councillor Shaves, honored members of the lacrosse community, ladies and gentlemen. On behalf of the Canadian Lacrosse Foundation, I'd like to welcome you to this ceremony to recognize the formation of the first sport governing body in North America, which is currently known as Lacrosse Canada, and the role that Kingston played in hosting this initial meeting of member clubs in its City Hall, September 26, 1867. This bench display began before the arrival of the pandemic, when Jim Calder, who's a member of our board of directors, and Ed Grenda, who you met earlier, had a conversation on the historical significance of the event to the city of Kingston and to Lacrosse. Jim brought the concept of this project to our board, and it was enthusiastically embraced by all our directors. Over the next couple of years, we worked with the city. We put a lacrosse display in City Hall that, as Jim Calder told me, was meant to be 1 year and lasted 3 because of the pandemic. After that, we moved our thought process to a more permanent display. A great deal of the credit has to go to Jim Calder here. We thank him for his efforts. We'd also thank the City of Kingston for their assistance in making this idea become a reality. We thank our friends with the Mohawk Indigenous peoples of this area for sharing this game with us. Thanks to Mike Mitchell for your great words earlier. And a thank you to Louis Delisle for helping us with the translation to the Mohawk language that you're going to see on the plaque. The results of this cooperation between the city, the foundation, and the Indigenous community is reflected in this bench and plaque commemorating this formative event here in Kingston. This is a historical moment for lacrosse in Canada, and one that needed to be permanently recognized through this bench and the plaque. Many individuals were involved in making the project a success. Thanks to all of you who worked on the project, and enjoy your Lacrosse Day here in Kingston.
Thank you, Jim. And as I mentioned, Jim represents Alberta as well here today. And now we have from British Columbia, we've got Matthew Black, who is the head of Canada Lacrosse Hall of Fame and Museum. It's a beautiful museum in New Westminster.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone. As was said, I am with the Canadian Lacrosse Hall of Fame in New Westminster, British Columbia, and you are all cordially invited anytime for a visit. I'd like to thank the Minister for coming out today, the City of Kingston, Mayor and Council for the recognition of Lacrosse Day. It is greatly appreciated. I must, on behalf of the Canadian Lacrosse Hall of Fame, expend our gratitude to the Haudenosaunee and the players and the peoples who have given us the sport of lacrosse. Fortunately, I have just come back from Hong Kong watching the World Championships. Team Canada, Haudenosaunee, USA were dominant, but to see the game playing in Asia on an international level, and as we speak now, presently is being played in Utica for the World Championships for box lacrosse. Again, Canada, Haudenosaunee, and the USA are again showing their dominance, but we are growing the game on an international level, and it began here on the international stage, and prior to that, from the Haudenosaunee's people, and it is greatly, greatly appreciated. I would also like to thank the fact that the Lacrosse Foundation and Canada Lacrosse are active participants in growing it. And I'd also have to congratulate, it is a shame that the First Nations teams were not able to play in that first league, but considering they won the Mann Cup again this year, I wonder why that was. So on final closing remarks, there are many Hall of Famers here. It's nice to see future Hall of Famers out here. Thank you for having us here. Cheers.
Representing Lacrosse Canada, the organization we are celebrating today, is past chairman Bill Hutton from Ontario.
On behalf of Lacrosse Canada, I would like to thank and acknowledge the support and contributions of the City of Kingston, its Mayor Brian Patterson and the Council for approving and providing an historic site for the granite monument and bronze plaque. Without their support, the project would have been impossible. Lacrosse Canada would also like to recognize and thank the Canadian Lacrosse Foundation President Jim Burke for his leadership, and Jim Calder, who spearheaded the project and made it a reality. The bench and plaque are symbols of a historic event in 1867 when lacrosse became Canada's first national sports organization. That event took place right here in Kingston. But it is more than just recognition of being the first national sports organization. It is also recognition of the indigenous roots of the game, played on these lands long before the arrival of the first Europeans. The creators' game that has been shared and is now being played by over 100 countries in the world. That gift has been acknowledged by the inscriptions on the memorial bench being in French, English, and Mohawk. The creators' game, a gift graciously shared with the world. Thank you.
Thank you, Bill. And now it's time to unveil two important historical items. The first is a replica of what will be a beautiful bronze plaque telling a complete story of this birthday. The wording will be in, as Bill said, English, French, and Mohawk. So I'm going to invite Jim Burke and Ganun Tagelun and the minister to come forward to the plaque over here. So gentlemen, unveil. The City of Kingston has had a granite bench commemorating one of the first hockey games in Canada, and I'm told that will be brought up here in the next few weeks as well and put in front of one of these pillars here. We wanted to match that bench with a bench that represented our national summer sport, lacrosse, and so that is what we've done, and we thought it would be most fitting to create a twin bench. And I would like to invite Bill Hutton and Councillor Chaves to come up here to do the unveiling of this, the City of Kingston and Lacrosse Canada. Gentlemen, you please unveil it. Great, thank you. So this bench is here. It commemorates what happened this day, 1867. So thank you, gentlemen. Okay. today over at the field nearby is on Carrico Field. There's all kinds of lacrosse from different members of the community, either learning for the first time how to play or learning a new game that will be in the Olympics called Sixes, or having a practice. Queen's University women's team will be over shortly to have a practice.
I was here to explain to students about the game. These students don't have a great background in the reasoning behind it, but I was explaining to them that our people have always used this game as a way of entertaining. We say the creator, it's a fun game, but it's also a game that can be used to settle disputes between nations back before the Europeans came. And the people always went by the result of the game. Also that it was used as a medicine game for people that are not well. You can have this game and it's dedicated to making them stronger. And I've seen it work. And also for me, the stick is medicine. When I was a child, this was really the only thing that kept me connected to my culture. But like I say, lacrosse was the basis of what kept me grounded to who I was. I was Ganyegehaga. Lacrosse was a word I knew, was the out of the Onsiquaks, and I never forgot it. So as I grew into adulthood, becoming a teacher, I started taking courses, and there was a revival to learn who we are, learn our language, learn our customs, learn our ways. So it really, really made me aware of it, and that's why to this day I'm still teaching, and my motto is, I will retire when I expire.
It's deeply important. We just saw when the elder spoke. He spoke about his experience in day schools. How how in his close to his community he was not able to speak his language. He wasn't able to be who he is. And we know that's been the case across Canada. We have so many residential schools or former residential schools that have severely impacted not just the individuals who went to those schools, but generations thereafter because of the intergenerational trauma that ensued. I think it's so important for everyone in Canada to understand the impact of residential schools, the impact of colonialism. But also this week and as we get closer to the day is to reflect on what our own responsibilities lie in acknowledging the past, but also committing towards a future that's inclusive and that ensures that Indigenous people are at the center of that future.
I think it's very important to spread the word of what the game of lacrosse means to Indigenous people. At the first encounter, history-wise, when Europeans came to North America, they saw Haudenosaunee people playing the game of lacrosse. The game was witnessed by missionaries and the early explorers, and they thought, they got to be killing each other. They came to the game with such great vigor. But after they found out that the game that they're playing meant something else to them, the game represented the health, fitness, the spiritual ties to the land, to all of creation. It's an expression of mankind to all of creation. After it was explained to them why they played the game with great vigor, and what is the meaning, the connection to the land, to the air, to the waters, to all of creation, they said, that we celebrate this through the game of lacrosse. It's meant to honor the Creator. Also, the game was played to settle differences among the nations themselves. With being different tribes, sometimes there's a dispute. And before going to war, the elders would get together and would arrange a lacrosse game, and the victor would win the argument. And they would settle their differences peacefully. That was the trend under their own constitution called the Great Law of Peace. And the elders preferred to settle differences in that manner. And that's why they call it the medicine game, or the creator's game, because it has deep cultural roots to it. And we only are now getting the opportunity to share that with the world, what the game of lacrosse means to us. And so we share that gladly with the rest of the world, because it also sends a message to a lot of people around the world that this game has many special moments of peace, brotherhood, and everything that is based in relation to the environment.
So hi, I'm Sarah. I'm with Queens Women's Lacrosse as well as Kingston Crossfire. We're really excited to be here at the Lacrosse Day in Kingston today. We're not only having a practice here at Carrico Field, but we're also having some of our players instruct, both with brand new lacrosse players and also some players from the Kingston Crossfire Club who are going to be trying out sixes. Sixes is a really exciting new version of lacrosse. It's kind of a combination of box and field lacrosse, which a lot of our local kids haven't had the opportunity to try out yet. And it's exciting because we do have the 2028 Olympics coming up, and I'm sure all the kids are excited to see the sport in the Olympics for the first time.
The reason why I was here today was to represent the city and the mayor, because we celebrated the Lacrosse Day here in Kingston. We proclaimed it Lacrosse Day because it's the 157th anniversary of the start of lacrosse.
I'm here at Lacrosse Day in Kingston working with some minor school children, helping them to learn the skills of the game, but more importantly, learning to love the game. I find that most children, once they get a little bit of a taste to it, they want to continue on and potentially, if not play in the future, certainly be a fan of the sport in the long run. I certainly encourage any young people that haven't had a chance to get out and play some lacrosse, contact your local lacrosse association, your local university that runs the university program. There are clinics, minor lacrosse associations across Ontario and across the country. Reach out. I find lacrosse people are very welcoming and will certainly show you the sport, and you can usually try it out with them at some point in time to find out if it's a sport for you.
With the Ottawa Black Bears, we're recently relocated and we have a new club launching with the National Lacrosse League in Ottawa. So as part of the Ontario Lacrosse Association boundaries, Kingston falls within Zone 5, and we are so happy to be part of the community here in Kingston. Now, we were invited to participate in Lacrosse Day in Kingston, and so without question we wanted to make sure we were here to help support growing the game, growing awareness of the sport. So we have a couple of players down here. We brought our mascot down here. And it's really all about just exposing kids to the summer sport of Canada. So we are happy to help with whatever it is, whether it's drills on the turf, bringing out the mascot, having some laughs and high fives. You know, we want to be part of the growth, and we think that there's a lot of lacrosse excitement within Kingston, within the Kingston region, and we're just happy to be participating.
A good part of this day is growing the game. We want to get the message out that lacrosse is growing across the nation, and especially as we enter into the next Olympic cycle. The new form of the game, sixes, will be in the Olympic Games in Los Angeles in 2028, but real growth comes from grassroots community support. And this is why Kingston and communities all across Canada rejoice at the opportunities that the Olympic Games are going to provide.
Today was a very, very good day for me. It was truly an honor to be standing in front of the Haudenosaunee Hall of Famers, as well as the Hall of Famers that were also in attendance from the Foundation and Lacrosse Canada. But it was an even bigger pleasure when I was able to look out amongst the crowd and see the youth that was here to participate in taking the event. There will be an opportunity for me to come out and watch the women's university team from Queen's University practicing here in this field. Moving forward, this is what we need to get people involved in a better community, in a better society, and the sports of lacrosse.
Hi, my name is Cam Miracle, and I am the captain of the Queens Women's Lacrosse team and also the captain of the U20 Haudenosaunee Nationals team that competed at the U20 World Championships in Hong Kong. We were there for 15 days, and it was just an incredible experience getting to represent the Haudenosaunee people, as well as we were the first Haudenosaunee people ever to land in Asia with our Haudenosaunee passports, which is a type of documentation for Haudenosaunee people only, kind of similar to a Canadian or US passport, except it's now being recognized for Haudenosaunee people as well, which was amazing. So we were just coming just to kind of help out and teach some kids who have never played lacrosse before some lacrosse skills and try and get some more kids involved in lacrosse, especially in Kingston, where the first lacrosse game for Lacrosse Canada was ever played.
It was a game that you could build a whole culture around, actually. It was quite amazing how deep lacrosse reaches into the Haudenosaunee, Anishinaabe, and Muskogee groups of nations. It's such a powerful force for all of those nations.
My language, I say Dawatni Datsu Yujuts. In the English world, I guess I'm known as Louis DeLille. That's the name I was given, but my real name is Dawatni Datsu. I feel lacrosse is very important in terms of like my community and the way we grew up playing it. And it's also one of the recognized sports in Canada. Hockey and lacrosse are basically the national sports. So I think it's very important to get the recognition, and it's really growing worldwide. And Canada, the U.S., and the Haudenosaunee people are really part of this this drive to make it worldwide. And I think it's important here at Kingston to have this commemorative bench set up today as a marker of the years to come for lacrosse.
One of the things I noticed is that when they were asked if any of them played or have had experience, only a handful of the kids put their hands up. So it means that everyone is here in neutral form. So nobody really has an advantage. So it's really a way to build a team, build a sport almost from ground up for these kids that are here today from the local school. But one I think they will take away for the rest of their lives. I've spoke to a couple of people who started playing lacrosse very late in life, 17, 18. These are, grade 6, 7s, and 8s. So I think there's a lot of potential for lacrosse to be embraced by these young people. But I think as lacrosse grows in popularity, but also becomes a sport in the Olympics, in the 2028 Olympics in Los Angeles, I think that's also going to really spark and inspire a new generation of players and grow the sport across North America.
I also coach with Queen's University Women's Lacrosse. We've got a great team. We compete in the OUA here in Ontario with 9 other universities. The level of competition over the last 10 years has increased tremendously. We're getting girls that may have played or chosen not to play NC2A lacrosse are now choosing OUA lacrosse. And it's really brought up the level of lacrosse, the level of competition, and the amount of interest of our sport here in Ontario. So it's been absolutely fantastic. Queens has been a traditional powerhouse in the sport, but there's certainly other schools that are certainly nipping at our heels quite closely, and we're doing our best to stave them off.
So sixes is a version of lacrosse that's kind of a combination of box and field. It's played outside, and there's 5 players on the field as well as a goalie. It's really fast-paced, kind of a smaller field than field lacrosse. There's no face-offs, so after a goal, the goalie just picks it up and they get going, which adds to the fast pace. Equipment-wise, there's a lot less equipment in men's sixes than there would be in men's field lacrosse. The style of play is more supposed to be fast-paced, having players be creative, which Team Canada is going to be really good at, and we're really excited for the new sport to keep going. Another benefit of sixes is that it's a very accessible sport, so unlike some other versions of lacrosse, there's a lot less equipment. Facility-wise, all you really need is a field and some nets versus having to have an arena, which makes it a lot more accessible for countries all over the world, which is why the sport was kind of created that way, so that we can have more and more people playing the sport.
Well, Kingston, I think, has a special place. In 1867, when the formal association of the sport was formed, it was formed in Kingston, and to have a bench to reflect that history, I think, is very important. And it's very much tied to the longer-term history of Indigenous people in lacrosse, and I think that connection, that interconnectivity, is critical, and one that I think really will resonate with players and others who observe the sport. But also, as we build up to the 2028 Olympics, I think it'll be another indicator of how strong lacrosse is, how lacrosse is a national sport for Canada.
Our job at Canadian Lacrosse Fame is to preserve the history and nurture the growth of the game by showing the best that Canada has to offer. Kingston has taken a step forward, and we're very proud to have been invited to record this fantastic event for our museum in New Westminster. More importantly, this is the way that we nurture our culture and remember the greats, and Kingston has taken a great step forward with this.
Again, it was such an honor for us to be able to participate in this event. Coming out here, seeing the monument in the form of the bench and the plaque that is being dedicated to the game of lacrosse, and one of the, or truly the birthplace of organized lacrosse in Canada from the Canadian Lacrosse Association, now Lacrosse Canada, is truly special.
Lacrosse is such an amazing game, the creator's game, and I hope that everyone can at some point in their lifetime, just like hockey, get to try lacrosse.
Kingston on three! 1, 2, 3, Kingston!
National sport was celebrated in Kingston. No, not hockey, as a lot of people may think, but lacrosse. Let's mark the occasion. 2 new monuments were unveiled at the Invista Center. Caitlin Poversnick has the story.
A new plaque, a new bench, and lots of lacrosse. The Invista Center hosted students and esteemed speakers to unveil Kingston's newest addition to commemorate modern lacrosse being born in the city on September 26th, 1867.
Kingston can be proud because it was one of the first amateur sport governing bodies in the world, certainly in North America, and that all happened here in Kingston.
Louis DeLille, an Indigenous elder, says that lacrosse has been played for millennia. It was played by various Indigenous nations, including the Haudenosaunee, each with their own variations of rules. But only more recently have the rules we see today been adopted.
The sport was founded by my ancestors, and it was shared with our visitors, the Europeans, and to this day it's being played all over the world.
The event brought together students to try out lacrosse and get a hands-on experience of a sport Indigenous peoples created.
We're here to celebrate a sport that has in many ways captivated Indigenous people for hundreds of years.
Well, what's great is the kids from the various schools that are coming here to learn the game and try the game, they're also getting taught about Haudenosaunee culture by elders speaking to them while they're playing the game as well.
Lacrosse remains an important symbol of Indigenous resilience and cultural pride. Calder, along with everyone else who participated in the event, hopes that lacrosse continues to be at the forefront of conversations, especially with its return to the Olympics in 2028. Caitlin Poversnick, Global News, Kingston.